roaring fireplace, winter's chill. It's all very Christmassy, isn't it? You know what else says Christmas? Good old ghost story. This is a short tale written by Suse Crosby set in 1800s Europe. I call this lurid lexicon the box. Siler used to be happy. He had a beautiful wife, Margot, and a daughter, Vina, who was growing into a beautiful woman. He had a great skill, carpentry. He had his own shop where he sold his carved ornaments, furniture, and creations. They all lived in the rooms upstairs. The house was warm. The town was happy. The mayor of the town had his own particular style, and sometimes he was too fond of his gold, but what town didn't have that? Until last spring, Margot became ill. It started with her just looking a bit grey, and gradually they noticed that she was in pain. She tried denying it. She'd always been strong and never sick. She protested about calling the doctor, but the doctor turned a different shade of grey after he examined her. He talked to Siler quietly in the hallway. Vina strained to hear. Siler stroked his greying whiskers on his rugged face, and she was distracted by what she saw. She saw the panic in his eyes. Yet her father still smiled when he saw Vina, wide-eyed and scared. But he didn't smile with his eyes. Then everything started turning grey. The house was less warm. Siler would spend hours with Margot, reading to her, talking with her, while Vina served in the shop, and then Vina would take over, first as a companion to her mother, then as days and months passed, as a nurse. Slowly the things in the shop started gathering dust. Things that were brought were not replaced with new things. I'd not seen them for Sunday service for quite some time when I called in the shop and found Vina trying to hide her tear-streaked face from me and smile as if I were just another customer. It was then that she broke down and told me everything. As I listened, I heard between the lines that most of their money was going on doctors and medicines, that Siler had not made any more of his wonderful carved wooden creations because he'd spent so much time with his wife. She went upstairs to fetch him, and I asked her, and looked around the shop. It had lost its sparkle, its brightness. Little wonder nobody was buying much anymore. It seemed as if sadness and desperation were oozing out of the brickwork, the shelves, the floor of the shop. I heard his heavy footfalls on the stairs, and when he came in, I hardly recognized the man. This man whom I had seen every Sunday since I came to this town, who prayed with fervour, as if he was being heard, as if he truly believed, not like many of the others who just prayed because they thought they should. I left there that afternoon, in the summer sunshine, feeling chilled to the bone at how things were for them. I was determined to do something to help, so I went to the mayor to ask if there was a commission or something he can give to Siler, something with money, so that at least that wouldn't be a worry. At first he refused. Then he suddenly lit up as if he had a light on him, but the look on his face wasn't light, it was dark. It was strange. He suddenly became animated. He muttered some things, more to himself than to me. My prayers have been answered, he said. And I remembered that. 3 weeks later I found Vina outside my door, asking me to come administer to her mother and father. I was so shocked when I saw Margot that I was shaking. She was so incredibly thin and unrecognizable from the bright woman I knew. I had no idea that she was so very ill. Gravely ill. I was hoping Vina and Siler wouldn't notice my reaction, but they seemed to be just looking at their beloved Margot. I prayed and I prayed, asking God to give them strength, to give me strength, to give them the light and the love that they needed. Siler seemed a little brighter downstairs. He told me he'd had a an urgent commission from the mayor to carve a box, that the wood for it had to be taken from guilder wood. I was shocked. I had heard strange things about guilder wood, but I said nothing. The mayor had given him a deadline for the box. He wanted it very quickly. But Siler, he had spent time with his wife instead and was late in delivering. The mayor at first had understood, but after days and days past had told Siler unless he delivered by this evening, he would not pay. I understood without asking that Siler was now seriously in debt with doctor's fees and medical bills, and that he had to deliver. I stayed with him for a while. At first it was just moaning from the room above that I could hear. The cries became louder and louder. Total anguish and pain was coming, ringing through the house as if the house itself was crying. In the end, I'm ashamed to say, I couldn't take any more and said I had to leave on God's business. I begged forgiveness for that. I encouraged him to keep on praying. I walked up the cobbled street and felt the round stones under my feet and a fine rain in my face. I gradually became aware of a voice calling me. Pastor! Pastor! Vina was there in front of me. Her face tears streaked, shaking with sobs. Her beautiful hair was lank and full of rain and sticking to her face. The town clock changed and clanged 7 loudly, disturbing the suspended moment. I looked at her face and I knew, and she led me back to the house. Siler was still praying, seemingly more with fervour, the box in his hands, tears landing on the box and soaking him to the wood. When I saw Margot, I could not believe her face, once so beautiful, had stayed in the shape of a terror-filled scream. I'd seen dead before, but never like this. I covered her with a sheet. I heard the door of the shop downstairs and went down. A messenger from the mayor was there, taking the delivery. Siler was almost attached to the box. I had to gently ask him to let it go. The evening disappeared slowly, like drizzling mist, in all the things that had to happen. A few days later, before the funeral, Siler came to me and asked me to come to the shop. The box, that special box that he was making, was there on the shelf. I pointed to it, not understanding why it was back in the shop. He nodded and said that the mayor himself had brought it back, but Siler wouldn't say more about it, but he was strange and on the edge. I wondered what on earth was going on, but Siler told me to wait. It was early evening. I waited, and I waited. And then the box moved. It was so gradual that it was like watching the hands of the town clock, but then sped up. And then sounds came from it, cries. I had heard them before, deep, pain-filled anguish as the box contorted and moved into a face holding a scream, a face I'd seen before, upstairs in this very house. I knelt and clasped my hands together in prayer, almost a reflex action. Then I heard the town clock strike 7. I looked up from my praying hands at the box, now as it was before. Siler was looking at me with the strangest look I've ever seen, pleading, imploring, aghast, terrified. He was silently asking for help, begging for help. I went back the next night after at first I refused to believe. Even though deep down I knew, and it happened all over again just before 7, the wood moving slowly, then faster and faster, and contorting into a dead scream. Siler's eyes were red-rimmed, and he was shaking. He was desperate. So now I have the box. I'm on my way to seek help to the pastor in the next town. He's older and hopefully wiser. I hope he has answers. I keep the box very safe, but every night, just before 7, I try and keep as far away from it as possible. The screams, the cries that terrify me right to my soul. Is it her tortured spirit trapped in the box? Why? Is she alone in there, or is she held captive? What can be done to help her? But another thought haunts me. What did the mayor want the box made for? That was tonight's story, titled The Box. I've been Luke Mepham. Have a good Christmas, but remember,
Don't have nightmares.